The moment I called my neighbor my girlfriend, I thought I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. The man standing too close to her looked at me with a mocking smile, as if he already knew I was bluffing. Then she reached for my hand, laced her fingers through mine, and whispered so quietly that only I could hear, "Don't take it back." And suddenly, the lie I had invented to protect her became something neither of us was ready to understand. Her name was Emma, and she lived 3 doors down from me in a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew everyone's business. We had been neighbors for almost 2 years, but somehow, our friendship had become the kind that felt older than the time we had actually known each other. We borrowed sugar, carried each other's packages, watered plants when one of us traveled, and occasionally sat on the steps after long days, talking about everything except the things that hurt the most. Emma knew I had lost my mother a few years earlier, and I knew she had once been engaged to someone who left her with more broken promises than memories. We never judged each other for our scars. Maybe that was why being around her always felt safe. I had never called her my girlfriend before because I was terrified of what that word might change. The truth was, I had started falling for her quietly, somewhere between the first time she brought soup to my door when I was sick and the evening she remembered the exact kind of coffee my mother used to make. But I kept those feelings buried. I told myself Emma deserved someone more confident, someone who knew how to say what he wanted without being afraid of rejection. I was still learning how to live with the fear that anyone I loved could disappear. If stories about kindness, second chances, and people finding each other when they least expect it mean something to you, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Love and Destiny. Your support helps us bring more stories about the little moments that can change a life. The night everything changed started at a small neighborhood restaurant. Emma had invited me because she wanted to celebrate getting a new position at work, and I was genuinely proud of her. She looked happier than I had seen her in months. We sat near the window beneath warm yellow lights, laughing about an embarrassing mistake I had made at work, when a man from another table approached her. His name was Ryan, someone she apparently knew through a mutual friend. At first, he seemed harmless. He complimented her, asked if she remembered him, and pulled up a chair without being invited. Emma politely answered his questions, but I noticed the way her smile slowly disappeared. Ryan kept leaning closer. Every time Emma moved back, he moved forward. She tried telling him she was there with someone, but he laughed and said she could spare a few minutes. There was something unsettling in the confidence of his persistence. I watched Emma's fingers tighten around her glass. I wanted to intervene, but for one terrible second, I hesitated. I had spent so much of my life avoiding conflict that my brain searched for a polite solution while Emma was clearly becoming uncomfortable. Then Ryan reached toward her wrist. I stood up. I don't remember making the decision. I only remember hearing my own voice say, "She's with me. She's my girlfriend." The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. Emma looked at me. Ryan looked at me. And my heart practically stopped. Ryan gave me a slow, suspicious smile and asked how long we had been together. That was the moment I realized my foolish little lie had become a test. I could have admitted the truth. I could have laughed it off and said I was only trying to help. Instead, before I could say anything, Emma stood beside me. Then she took my hand. Her palm was warm, and her fingers wrapped around mine with surprising certainty. She looked directly at Ryan and said, "Don't take it back." I stared at her. Ryan's expression changed. He muttered something under his breath, stepped away, and finally returned to his table. But I barely noticed him anymore. All I could feel was Emma's hand holding mine. When we finally left the restaurant, neither of us spoke for half a block. The city lights reflected in the wet pavement, and a cold breeze moved through the trees. I finally apologized for calling her my girlfriend without asking. Emma stopped walking. She told me she wasn't angry. Then she admitted something that shook me more than anything Ryan had done that night. She said she had been scared, not of Ryan exactly, but of what she had felt when I stood up for her. She had spent years convincing herself that love was dangerous because the person she once trusted most had made her feel disposable. Yet when I said she was with me, she hadn't felt trapped. She had felt protected. I wanted to tell her I had been falling in love with her for months. Instead, fear took over again. I told her that what happened tonight didn't have to mean anything. Her face fell. She nodded as if she understood, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. Then she quietly said that sometimes people lose something beautiful because they are too afraid to admit they want it. She walked home alone. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I found a small paper bag hanging from my doorknob. Inside was the coffee I liked and a note from Emma thanking me for protecting her. But beneath the thank you was a sentence that stayed with me all day: "You don't have to pretend to be brave with me." I realized then that my fear wasn't really about Emma rejecting me. It was about letting someone matter enough that they could hurt me. For the next few weeks, things became awkward. We still saw each other, but something had changed. Our conversations became shorter. I missed her laugh. I missed the comfortable silence between us. I missed knowing that I could knock on her door simply because I wanted to see her. Then one evening, I saw a moving truck outside her house. My stomach dropped. Emma told me she had accepted a job in another city. She had been planning to leave for weeks, but after the restaurant incident, she had decided it might be easier to go. She said she needed a fresh start and didn't want to keep waiting for me to figure out what I wanted. For the first time in my life, I stopped trying to protect myself from disappointment. I told her the truth. I told her I loved her. Not because she had held my hand in a restaurant. Not because she had needed someone to defend her. I loved her because she had somehow made my lonely life feel less lonely without ever asking me to become someone I wasn't. I loved the way she remembered small things. I loved the way she cared when nobody was watching. I loved that she had survived heartbreak and still managed to be kind. Emma cried. So did I. She admitted she loved me too, but she was afraid. She didn't want promises made in a moment of emotion. She wanted something real, something built slowly. So I asked her for exactly that. Not forever. Not perfection. Just a chance. Emma stayed. Not because everything suddenly became easy, but because we finally stopped running from what we felt. We started dating, awkwardly at first, then naturally. We learned each other's fears, celebrated each other's victories, and became better at saying what we needed instead of expecting the other person to guess. Months later, we returned to the same restaurant. We sat at the same table near the window. Emma smiled and asked me if I remembered the night I called her my girlfriend. I told her I remembered every second. She reached across the table and took my hand again. This time, there was no pushy stranger, no excuse, and no lie to hide behind. She squeezed my fingers and smiled. Still your girlfriend? I looked at her and realized that some of the most important moments in life begin as accidents. A careless sentence. A frightened decision. A hand reaching for yours when you least expect it. I told her, if you'll have me, I hope you'll be much more than that. Emma smiled through tears and said she already was. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes that real love can grow from friendship, and subscribe to Love and Destiny. Sometimes one small act of courage is all it takes to change two lives. And before the story ends, I want you to leave a special comment: I won't let fear steal something beautiful. Because sometimes the person standing beside you isn't waiting for you to become perfect. They're simply waiting for you to stop being afraid of reaching for their hand. And when someone finally reaches back, maybe the bravest thing you can do is hold on.